Hello everybody, it is your local mediocre programmer Whisper788 here, and today the goal is going to be to try, I put heavy emphasis on the try part, to learn the programming language Lisp. Now Lisp is the second ever high-level programming language, and it is the first ever interpreted language, so it has a lot of historical importance. And for that reason, I want to understand it, to understand the roots in more modern languages I use every day. Now, for obvious reasons, it does sound like a pretty hard language to learn, so I'm not sure if I'm actually how good this is going to go, but I'm willing to give it a shot. And I was thinking that I might as well try to record the process and show it off of trying to understand the language, as the only other time I've really seen a YouTuber do that is Tsoding. Or Tsoding? I'm not sure how you say it, but I'll probably put his channel in the description. He makes great videos. Obviously, my quality is never going to be that high, but I just thought it'd be fun to do this. So, disclaimer, I do know a little bit already about C-Lisp. Well, not C-Lisp, well, yeah, Common Lisp, right? So if I open up the interpreter of Common Lisp, which I have the GNU C-Lisp, because I'm not sure what other interpreters even exist for Common Lisp, so it was the only one I could really find. But like, I know that, like, if I wanted to do print hello world, I could do it like that. Just put in the brackets. I know, of course, due to the name, that Lisp is a programming language where everything, including the code, is data. In this sense, a list, from what I understand. Which is why everything has to go in the brackets like that. And I'm guessing, I'm not sure, but my guess already is that spaces has to do with separating the elements of the list. I also read the first 2 chapters of the book that we're going to be using. The got what the title of the name? Practical. I think it's Practical Guide to Lisp or something, but it's like the book that everyone uses apparently. And it's available on the net for free. So, good source, it seems. I've read the first 2 chapters, and they're just basically like how to install Lisp and stuff. This seems to be where it actually starts to kick off something. So, he's talking obviously over here about building software in Lisp. You'll have to learn language, blah 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 blah. And he's talking about building a database to keep track of CDs. And that this is apparently something that Lisp is pretty good at. Which I'm going to be very interested to see if Lisp is, because I wouldn't think of Lisp as a language good at keeping databases, but probably, actually, now come to think about it, it probably would be, because the programming seems very data-oriented, in a way. So to keep track of CDs that need to be ripped to MP3s, and which CDs should be ripped first, each record in the database will contain the title and artist of the CD, a rating of how much the user likes it, and a flag saying whether it has been ripped. So to start with, you'll need a way to represent a single database record. In other words, one CD. Common Lisp gives a lot of choices of data structures, from simple for-item Lisp to user-defined class, using the Common Lisp Object System. CLOS. Common Lisp Object System. Lisp has objects? I was under the impression that it was functional. Or does it not have classes, but then it has objects? I have to remember that. For now, you can stay at the simple end of the spectrum and use a list. Okay, that's a lot easier to start with before we jump right into objects. Lists in Lisp is probably going to be an easy thing to do. You can make a list with the list function, which approximately enough returns a list of its arguments. Okay, so like it says here, create a list. I typed Lisp. My brain is too much in the Lisp. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the elements are separated with spaces. That makes sense. It would be stupid if the whole programming language was covered in commas. That would be awful. So we do see oh, that's why my guess up here with when the hello world was repeated twice is that because it obviously executed the print, but then because it's in the terminal, it had to return the output of the expression. So I think that's why it duplicated twice, and I think this confirms that. Because there's no printing going on, it's just the Lisp evaluates to that list of 1, 2, and 3, and it just prints out because it's in the terminal. I'm interested though in the fact that you need to use the list keyword. Why do you have to declare something like that as a list? Oh, I think I've got it. Because like if you had a list that was just 1, 2, 3, the 1 would get executed as the function. It would always look at the start of a list, which is my guess of why there's a list there probably. Because to stop it from being executed. Okay, that makes sense. You could use a 4-item list, mapping a given position to the list with a given field in the record. How another flavor of list called a property list or a plist. What a funny word. For short is even more convenient. A plist is a list where every other element, starting with the first, is a symbol that describes the next element in the list. I won't get into all the details of exactly what symbols right now. Basically, it's a name for symbols that name the fields in the CD database. You can use a particular kind of symbol called a keyword symbol. Keyword is any name that starts with a colon. For example, food. Okay, that's interesting. So they use the colon as like a trying to say that this is not a element but a identification of the element. Are variables stored the same way in the language? I wonder. Because this actually in this error report it says use value R1, but it has the same semicolon there. Well, not semicolon, I mean colon. So does that mean that a normal list has these as like the way you address things in a list? Or is that not how that works? Oh, all that's out of scope for now. We'll just continue on. Using the keyword symbols A, B, and C as property names. So list A. Okay, so tell me if I'm wrong. This seems awfully like a dictionary. It's probably not under the hood. There's probably some difference here, but for the sake of argument, it's just like using a custom name to index. Well, I guess the labels can't be data themselves, I think. Like, you can't have one, like, if I have semicolon 1, right, that's not a piece of data, that's just going to be a label. So, not the same, but you probably get what I'm talking about, at least. So, it says here, like, we create a list, and we use A1, B2, and C is 3. Okay, interesting that it capitalizes it when it returns it. I'm guessing that it's not case sensitive. That from my understanding. So, can this be multi-lettered? So if I have like Bob as the second element, yeah, okay, it can be multi-elements, and it does seem like it's not case sensitive. It just capitalizes everything. That's interesting. Note you can create a property list with the same list function as you use to create other lists. It's the contents that makes it a plist. You can create property list with the same... Oh! So no custom keyword, like obviously it's just a list all over again. My guess of that is traces back to the whole thing. My guess is this list keyword does actually very little. It's just there to stop executing the first thing. It's just kind of saying ignore, like from my understanding, probably like a no-op function, like it does nothing. And then because it does nothing, you just get the output of the list. Nothing gets done to the contents. That's what I understand here. So you don't need like any... Everything is a list. The common Lisp thing, everything is a list. So the thing that makes plist a conventional way to represent the records in a database is the function getF, which takes a plist and a symbol and returns the value in the plist following the symbol, making the plist a sort of poor man's hash table. You know, this is actually reminding me a lot of like SQL databases, like how you can insert values into like a type of data and then just use a simple command. You give it a key, and then it gives you back what data is at that location. It's a lot like a database. That's such a cool functionality. Just be able to use normal lists as like a weird sort of table of sorts, you know? Returns the values in... The closest I've actually seen to something like this is, strangely enough, Lua. It's an odd example to give, right? But tables in Lua have so much functionality. Obviously, it makes sense in that scenario, because in Lua, it's obviously did that so they didn't have to have they didn't want to fill the language with this and that, so they just used one data type that could be very multifunctional, if you get what I mean. So, so yeah, like that, it reminds me a lot of Lua tables, which it's probably nothing like Lua tables at all, but it's from the first impression. It's like a database and Lua table had a baby. So we can then, if we... How about... Let me actually try something quickly. I'm just curious here. Okay. That was not... I was just thinking there that we could try and use a variable to store the list, and I was just guessing at the keyword you needed. But guess what? I guess it's not set. So we'll just keep on plowing on. We'll use the getF. Why is there the F though? Is that just stand for function? I'm not sure what the F stands for there. Don't know why it's just not get. Probably a reason for it, but like, you know, what do I know? Lisp, the list, the A, the B. Oh, we probably should have put the A's, the B, and the C. Wow. We close that bracket, and we add. So we have here the first parameter to getF is the thing we're going to be indexing, and the second one is the index. Okay. I'm guessing it won't matter that this A is capitalized, because obviously the case not sensitive thing that we kind of... that might be a thing. Let's just check it. Okay, yeah. It seems like that case sensitive, I was right about that. It's not sensitive to cases. Which, by the way, is a great thing. I think that's a really cool feature it has, because very rarely are you going to be discerning elements based on like case. And if you do, what are you doing? Like, I mean, you could have, I guess you could have local stuff as capital and lower cases, local variables, but still not not many people do that. And I don't know if this case thing goes for variables as well. I'm guessing all this indexing stuff is probably how variables are handled as well. But we get to see that, of course. So anyway, that gives us 1, obviously expected behavior, and I'm guessing if we change this to C, we get 3, of course. And I'm guessing also this probably works with string data, right? This is a test string, right? That probably, yeah, string data completely fine in this. Alright, given all that, we can easily write a function, make cd, that will take in 4 fields as arguments, return a lisp representing that cd. Okay, define function, right? Make cd. Okay, so that's the actual command itself, like the name, right? That's what I'm guessing. Title, artist, rating, ripped. I see, because obviously, like we said before, the Lisp uses spaces to separate out elements, so it's just using spaces there. That's interesting. I do wonder though if using spaces like that is a good idea. Like, wouldn't it clash with something else? Probably not. Actually, that's a good question. Why do a lot of languages not use spaces as the way of separating elements? Like, wouldn't that make a lot more sense and be a lot less stuff to write? They probably use spaces somewhere else, of course, but like, can't you, like when you're inside of a bracket or something, like evaluating something, why can't you just use spaces? It seems like a really cool thing to do. I see that this is obviously, this second thing is probably the code that's being ran here, right, inside the function. How does it return? Does it just return the last thing evaluated? I'm guessing that's probably how it's doing it. Or is it just... Nah, it's probably going to be the last thing evaluated. It wouldn't make sense. Because look, this is a list with title being a key to the title input. We've got artist as a key to the artist thing, the input. A rating key to the input of rating, and a ripped key to the input of ripped. So this is just a list. This is just putting that list out and outputting it. So there is no return function going on. It is probably just returning the last evaluated function. Okay, that's very handy to have. It's kind of actually funny, I think. I came into this thinking that Lisp was not very friendly to use. It's actually, from what I've seen so far, it actually minimizes a lot of syntax. Obviously, these brackets around everything, these curly braces, are just... you can't argue that those are not awfully ugly. They are awfully ugly. It's just, you can't accept it, man. I think I have seen a few Lisp enjoyers say that the brackets are nice, and maybe if you squint you could see that, but yeah, you're not. It's not a fun thing to have to put brackets around everything. But it's, out of other languages, syntax, there are languages I could think of that I would personally hate more than this. I wouldn't even go as far to hate. I don't hate this. It's annoying, gotta give you that, but like, a lot of IDEs will automatically create a pair every time you create an open bracket, so it's not really that big of a problem, I think. So for curiosity, can we make our own function here that I still keep on the command line does a weird thing with the brackets. I'm not sure what it is. I'm very used to making my brackets like this, like I think the ID I use when I make brackets like this, it will just immediately place the key, well, the pointer inside. So I'm used to that behavior, and it's weird here. So I'm just going to open that. So we use the define function keyword. Let's just do test. I'm guessing the underscore won't deal anything bad, probably, right? Let's just create a input of test input, right? Just normal stuff. We close that off, and even though here they use a space and they use a little bit of like indentation, my guess is that's not needed. Like a lot of older languages, they don't tend to be sensitive to how you structure stuff. They usually just read it like it's one long line. So I'm going by that assumption that I don't have to indent stuff. Like, my guess is it's just going to figure it out. I find it actually interesting though. My guess is that defun, the define function keyword, is a function in itself, right? So how is it taking input that's outside of its, like here is where the define function statement is, right? It's in its own bracket. How is it accessing the next bracket? Can it do that? Can functions access things out of their little box, to have a lack of better word, you know? I think that's quite interesting. Or maybe the define function is not a actual function and is something else entirely, like it could be more core syntax or whatever. But my guess is probably that the for loops, ifs, those kind of things are going to use the same syntax. So what if you wanted to create a custom one of that? How would you deal with the input? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. And I bet I will find that out eventually. But so let's put a print function in here. I'm going to put, well, actually, we want it to have the test input as its input. And I'm going to see if this evaluates, or it's just going to crash. It's probably not going to work. Code never works the first time you run it. Alright, it's crashed. It didn't work. System read eval print variable test input has no value. The following restarts are available. Wait a second. They've opened one bracket here. They've opened a bracket here. They've only got one closing bracket. Oh, it is one. Oh, I'm so dumb. I just didn't read it right. This is one just giant bracket. Oh, that's okay. That is my fault. I just did not see it through like the indentation. It is just, I did not have to do all that speculation. It turns out it is normal input. Alright, okay. That makes a lot more sense. At least we know how, like, if we want to edit or like create our own if statement, like custom if statement or whatever, right? At least we know how to create a function that could do that properly. Right? I'm guessing there's like an eval function somewhere, like a function to evaluate a list as code. So you could probably create your own custom logic, right? Like your own logical variables. From what I've heard, like Lisp is very meta programming focused. So my guess is you're going to be doing a lot of like reinventing parts of the language, or like monkey hacking together stuff in the functions that are in the base programming language. That's what I kind of am getting at. Let's see if this works now. Yes, we got a test function. Now, will the shell retain the information that we put in it just then? Let's see if we can use. Oh wait, got to make that open bracket. let's see if we can use our new test function. Do we need to... oh yeah, we don't need to put any brackets for the input, because it's going to deal that itself. Does this work? Please do. And we're going to close that. Now, I very highly don't think this is going to work. Let's hope it does, but it probably isn't. Let's just try. Yes! Oh, that actually worked. Well, that's actually, I'm gonna say here, right now, that's not a bad way to define a function. I actually, from what I've seen so far, it looks like Lisp has very little syntax. It seems to like just revolve around the idea of a list where the first element is the function in question, and everything else is its inputs. I would bet a great British pound that is what the whole language is gonna do, on and on and on. And if that is what the language does, holy macaroni, that will be an extendable language. Just think, like, anything you add could do the same sort of stuff as the base language. Like, it has so little syntax built in, it means you can kind of forget about the syntax entirely. I like that. I like that a lot. If that is the case, obviously. There's probably some scenario where there is more syntax that don't know about. I highly doubt there's going to be a lot of it. Anyway, let's just do the thing that they say we should do. I'm not going to bother to copy all this stuff because I already wrote some functions before, so I'm just going to paste that in. And now we got the make cd command. So let's try it. Let's use their make cd command. I'm going to input a, well, so the first one is going to be the artist, right? What is an artist I can think of? Actually, what is? Well, you know, let's just say the artist is me. I am not an artist. Well, I'm not a music artist, so I've never made a single piece of music ever. So I don't think this is totally legitimate. But we're doing it anyway. The next one is going to be who made it, which, oh, I know, actually, it is title. Oh, wait, the title. Oh, the first element is the title. Okay, well, let's call it, I'm so amazing. Totally, if I release music, that's what I would call it. And the artist is me, of course. The rating is 10. It's just full out amazing. And ripped. What's the T? Why do they put T there? Is T a? Why did it? T doesn't have any commas around it. Is that a variable? They haven't defined the T variable. So what is T? Is T true? T's probably true, right? It's gotta be. Yeah, T's probably gonna be true or something like that. From what I bet. Oh yeah, because the input is ripped. So from that logic, I'd also guess that F is false, right? So anyway, we run the make cd command. We get title, I'm so amazing. Artist is me. Rating is 10, and ripped is true, or T. Whatever. I'm not sure what this T is, but it almost certainly is probably true. Filing CDs. A single record, however, does not make a database. Does not a database make? What? However, does not a database make? Is that supposed to be does not make a database? Is this just a typo? This has got to be a typo. Was this some kind of like weird way of saying that I don't understand? Am I too little brain for this, or is this just your average man's typo? If it's a typo, then fine. Like this book is, from the looks of it, pretty big. I can excuse a mistake like, however, does not a database make? Speaking like Yoda. You need some larger construct to hold the records. Okay, yeah. Are we going to be putting this in like a bigger list? Are we going to put these lists in a list? Because if we do that, that would be pretty fun. I want to know how to. I want to know how to index a list without these weird labels. Tell me already. I want to know. You need some larger construct to hold the records. Again, for simplicity's sake, a list seems like a good choice. I feel like it's the only choice in this language. I doubt there is any other type of indexable data type in this language. Also, for simplicity, you can use a global variable. DB? What? Database? Huh? Oh, the global variable database. In presumed bold here, right? So we're going to be storing our database in DB. Which means you can define with the define var. Ah, there we go. We know how to make variables now. Let's go. Like, because if I do a define var of like, I'm guessing x is going to be the first one. We're going to say x is 1, I guess. Okay. Now, if I type print x, let's hope that the fact that x is a integer isn't going to be a problem, right? Like, actually, this is a good way of testing. Does Lisp have strong typing or loose typing? I want to know. Tell me. Okay, it's got loose typing, it seems. At least from what it appears. I'm very much not an expert on loose typing and strong typing. I just go with the flow of whatever the program language tells me. But it appears that it's got some lenience, at least with like the input of functions. Wait, actually, really something to think about. The functions, they don't actually define a type. That's interesting. Because this program language was made in 1950 something, from what I remember. And from the languages of that time period, strongly typed was like the de facto. You know, like you never loose typed languages weren't really a thing. And like functions always needed a type. It's obviously all those languages were compiled and Lisp is interpreted. But that's really interesting because it means even the first interpreted language already had the idea of like variable type should be more loosey-goosey. It's I'm gonna point this out. It is surprising to me how timeless this feels. Like knowing that it was made in 1950 something, it's surprisingly modern from the get-go. Like everything is so it's just somehow really modern. Like I could use this, like if I learned more about this language, right? I could use this to make scripts and I would be happy with it. This is already a really fun language. I like how simple it is already. Like the concept of function, then parameters. Function, then parameters. Function, then parameters. That is nice. That is logical. I like it. It's not like Python where there's syntax for literally any concept has a different syntax. It's just one way of doing things, and that is it. Like, I mean, I didn't even really have to understand variable declarations. I just knew that here's the def var keyword, right? Def var is probably going to take the variable and then its input, because that's how the rest of the language works, right? So, and it worked. That is nice. I'm going to quickly see though. Can we make? I'm guessing yes, but can we make variables lists? Right. Okay. Now let's print that. Did it not overwrite? Or is it just printing the first element? Because if we make the first element 4, I'm guessing it's not overriding. Oh, because this is defining a variable, right? It specifically says def var. It's not assigning x to a value. It is just making the variable. So I don't think I can override a variable. Let's then define a var of y. Let's say eval 4 is not a function name. Oh yeah, sorry, that was stupid. That needs to be a list. I forgot that lists need to be declared as lists. Okay, we've got a y variable. Now can we print our y, please? Oh yeah. Oh, and that's great. I was worried this would be another Lua situation where you have to program in a way to print out tables. Thank goodness the print function can print out its own lists. That is beautiful because I don't have to write a stupid one myself. Oh my goodness. And it makes debugging so much easier because you can just print out stuff. I mean, I actually wonder, does I'm guessing not, but I wonder if Common Lisp actually has a built-in logger. Like, does it have a log system? Because it surely has a standard library. I don't know how big the standard library is, but it's got to have one. So does it include a logger? Or are we just going to do the old memey way of print every single function you see? Not very good if your program crashes, though. Anyway, let's get back on track with these making CDs, as we call it. Given all that, well, okay, got where I actually was. We've already made the CD. Okay, we need to make the database. Okay, we need to make the Y's in star. Are they just bolding? Are they trying to use markup here? Or is this just, do we have to use stars? If it is markup that they're using, why is this website not interpreting the markup? Why did they not convert it? Like, well, it has styling. Styling this is in caps lock. So these stars must be here. They must mean something. So why? What do the stars mean? What do the stars mean? Let's see if this actually works, or if this is just poor writing or whatever. Probably not. The stars. Wait. The stars must be global. Ah, yes, because you can use a global variable. Ah, the stars are global. That's interesting. Because I'm used to. I remember one of the things I love the most in any programming language I've used when it comes to variable declarations was Ruby's ability to globalize variables based on caps lock. That is so useful. It is genuinely very useful. I like it because you don't have to add on a global, like you say, like, oh, this thing, but global. And you're like, well, like, it's messy, if you get what I mean. Like, adding local and global variable keywords, it doesn't look nice, you can't, it doesn't read well. But if you have a capital based function, instantly you can plainly see it's global, right? So it having stars as global, I really like that. That's a good feature. Good feature, Lisp. I approve. You got the Whisper 788 stamp of approval. So we're gonna make our database variable, and we're going to make it nil. That's interesting. It uses nil, just like Lua uses nil. That's fun, because I really like nil in languages because I find that they tend to give better error reports, in my opinion. Like, if your function just outputs nothing, right? Or like just nothing, right? Or like say a 0 that's like it could be interpreted by the something else in your program. That's not great. But nil, right? Nil is clearly nil. And if you try and interpret in most things, it will just crash your program. And then you get to see where did it go wrong? Where did your function get set to nothing? I've always liked nil. It's a good word as well. Good word for no information. I wonder though, how does Lisp deal with nil? So like, if I declare this, right, we got database in that, right? So we want to make let's print out database. Question though, do we need these stars? Because over here it says define num add record push cd database. It includes the stars. So do the star the global notation? I'm guessing that carries over to other places. Like, we got to put it everywhere like that. That's fine. I don't think that's bad. It lets you see if it's global or not. And actually, point this out, it gives a definition between local and global in the sense that you can have a database variable that is local, and you can have a database variable that is global at the same time, and you can easily see which one you're referring to. That is good. That's good to have. Let's see what happens if we print it. Nil. Okay, so it just does type conversion of nil. I'll accept that. I don't really have anything against it doing type conversion for nil. I was expecting it to give off an error. Like, I would expect a language to crash when processing a unset variable like that. But it's fine if it doesn't. You know, like, if you're expecting your function, your program to break because of undefined behavior, then, well, not undefined behavior, that's C thing, but like an undefined variable causing havoc in your program, then you're probably going to want to put checks in it. You're probably going to check your variables every so often if they're nil, for good practice. So I don't mind that it reports exactly what it is. It's nil, you know. So we can use the push macro to add items to the database. But it's probably a good idea to abstract things a little bit, a tiny bit, not a little, tiny. So you should define a function add record that adds a record to the database. We're defining a function add record, and we have a CD. We're going to push CD database. I'm guessing push is just like the way we're going to append things. It's like we're just treating lists as stacks, right? That's what I'm getting from this. Like, it's probably not anything. Does it, when we push, is that going to put it at the front or at the back? Probably the front. Yeah, probably the front. I can't imagine why they'd put it on the back. But let's just use our define function. Oh wait, I forget there's not two F's. Add a record. We're going to have a CD and as our input parameter, and we're going to use the second parameter to push our CD into the database. I find it interesting though that the add record, the example isn't using like returning the new database. If I was doing this, I would probably have a function that takes the database as an input and then returns the database rather than directly naming the database. But it's just nitpick, right? And at the end of the day, this is just an example of one thing. We're not trying to build an expandable program here, right? I need to stop thinking about the expandability and the multi-use of my functions. Right now they're being used for one thing and one thing only. That is the CDs. Alright, we're going to close that and we're going to close the parent bracket. And we're going to... Yeah, now we got the add record. That's good. So we can now add record to make a CD together. And okay, add record. And the input to add record is the make CD. That is such a nice abstraction. Like, we could obviously you could see it coming, but like doing this is so human-like. It's very obviously the brackets make it look weird and robotic, but strip away the brackets in your mind, and literally all you have here is add record, make CD, and then you just have the parameters, and that is it. It's like a database. It's so cool. Wow. I wasn't actually expecting this. It will look very... from all the Lisp I've seen personally, it's always looked really weird and ugly and like, ew, why would you be programming in that thing? Like, it's so old, man, and it looks really odd. Like, I get it's good for meta programming, but like, oof, that looks odd. But obviously, that's just judging a book by its cover, right? Like, if we judged programming languages on how they looked alone, we'd be using very different programming languages as industry standard, right? Like, people would be, I don't know what, like probably, I would guess everyone would be using Ruby then, or Lua constantly. Like, I don't think anyone would, if we were basing just on how they looked and nothing else. But obviously, in reality, those programming languages, while they're good, have their downsides. Like, Ruby is particularly, it's just as slow as like any other big interpreted language like Python, for example. And Lua is, due to its embedded nature, it's powerful, yeah, it is powerful, but I would still argue its power is limited. Like, it is not built for scripting. So like, looks are not the bit. Looks are. I've seen, actually, this is a point that I want to put out. I have seen so many people on like different platforms doing comparisons of like Python and C++ and be like, oh my goodness, Python is so much better because printing hello world is just one line, and C++ it's like, oh my goodness, it's so much. And you're like, yeah, I know, boilerplate is a problem, but in the case of C++, you can't pin that on it. It's a compiled language. It needs a lot of that. It needs the boilerplate because you need to import the standard library so that not all executables are linking every single thing in their standard library every single time. You need to set up your main function, which is, from my understanding, compiled languages is a necessary for a compiled language. You need to give out a return output so that the program knows that it hasn't crashed. It's just like, you cannot compare the two. Looks are not the main problem here with how hard a language is to use. I could make a programming language that just has H as how it prints hello world, right? And I'd be like, oh my goodness, such an easy programming language. Look, Python takes like 6 characters, and I done it in 1. And you're like, well, your programming language can't do anything else. Like, yeah, but it prints hello world good, so it must be good. And I think that's the case that we have here with Lisp. It looks ugly on the surface. When you dig into it, it actually seems very usable and very abstract. Like, it focuses, it looks like, from what I've seen, on abstracting things, which I like. This looks like a very nice interpreted language. I think as this series continues, I will, and if it ends and I manage to learn a decent amount about Lisp, I will actually probably use this as my de facto scripting language if it can prove itself to me to be powerful enough, right? I think this already, from the basic building blocks I've seen, just like the define function, how usable it is, from what I've seen, is so, like, you could just build up any piece of the language you wanted. You could make this, if this language is functional, like if Lisp is functional, my guess is you could probably program in objects if you wanted to. It is that expandable. If it's functional, I could do a video about making Lisp object based. Probably so many people have done it before me, but like, it'd be fun. It would be fun. But first, before all that, gotta continue the grind. But that's pretty much it for at least like this. I'm not sure if this is going to be a part of a bigger video or if it's going to be like an episode. My guess is probably going to make this into an episode, a pretty trashy episode. I do not think I am a very. This video is going to be great, but like, I hope if there is someone who took anything away from this, hope you have a good day.